since I was 10 years old, I knew I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Here we go. You see?
That's what I wanted to be.
She was at the first of the class. I do want to be a pediatrician.
So when did the Cosby Show come out? How old were you? You were younger than 10. Thanks. Anywho, I got to my pediatric rotation. I absolutely hated it. And not only did I hate it, I wasn't good at it. I found it so utterly boring so that when we would sit for rounds and ask, you had a fever for 5 days. Like, what is that? I don't know. Give him some tussin.
Yeah, boy, let that tussin get in there, boy.
I don't know. What's wrong with this kid?
She's like that with our kids, everyone.
Folks, your exciting new medical career, it's just been hit with a serious illness or injury that stops you from earning a paycheck just when you need it most. Check out what Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance said back on episode 176 about having disability insurance early in your career.
The real reason to get it early on is really twofold. One is to protect your insurability. So if you are healthy and you can obtain the coverage, you also pre-approve yourself to be able to buy more in the future. So down the road, as your income does increase, you don't have to answer additional medical questions. All you have to do is show that your income is increased and you can buy more benefits at that time. No medical questions asked.
Protect your income, secure your future. Check out setforlifeinsurance.com.
All right, what's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. Joined by me, Dr. Nee, got
Dr. Renee.
And we also joined by our team manager. We got Kiara. What's up? How you doing?
Hello.
See, she got a little flair too.
I initially thought that she was schooling me before. I thought that was like Army type, the brown T-shirt. I thought that was like
She's
an Army
not
thing.
in the Army.
I know. He has to keep telling me. So
she's a Marine.
What color is Marine? Is it like gray and red?
It's green, red.
Isn't it? I always see that USMC is like yellow and some red colors. Don't you guys
have like the mismatch?
Well, first of all, we've got a bunch of uniforms, but our utilities are, now they're just green, like the green and black, that forest green, and our undershirts are green.
Like me.
So we don't wear brown. The red, though, is the blood stripe on the pants.
Don't you guys have like the
that's
mismatch?
What the meaning. That's the meaning of that.
Like
okay.
The mismatch jacket with the pants, like your jacket doesn't match your pants color.
What's she talking about?
Is that the Marines?
Yes, I might have a picture somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll send it to you guys.
Thank you. I always found that kind of like, I wonder why they didn't match the blazer to the pants.
Yes, our bottoms, our trousers are lighter than our tops. Our tops, I want to say it's a navy blue, like a very deep navy blue, maybe black. I can never tell. But the bottoms are blue with the red stripe.
Well, we do appreciate your service, so thank you very much, Kiara.
She's a Marine. She'll hurt you.
Of course she'll hurt me. She can't do as many push-ups as me, but yeah.
I don't know. What was it, 10 you did?
12.
12?
12.
Yeah. I saw, wait. I saw a commercial and it said, you can join the military or you can be a Marine. And I was like, ooh, I think that was shots fired at the Army.
There's always shots fired.
Is it like friendly shots or like do y'all like really have beef? Not to like belabor this point, but do y'all really have beef or no?
No, not really. I mean, I have friends in the Army. I have friends in the Navy.
Do you like look down on them and stuff or?
I have friends who are soldiers.
It's like I have black friends.
No, genuine friends. They joined before or after me, and then we have and you actually meet people like in Hawaii. We had an Army couple, and we had a Navy couple, and we all just hung out together. We're all regular people after the uniform comes off. It's kind of like doctors, right?
I don't know. I don't be talking to these surgeons.
Well, Kiara, what's in store for today's show? Talk to us about it. What's on the
agenda?
Yeah.
I wanted your opinion on the honey scam.
Honey.
I heard about this.
All right, y'all. So let's talk about honey, right? So what honey is, or what it still is, or what it was is, so honey is a company that made it super easy for you to save money anytime you wanted to buy anything online, right? So you guys may have this on your Chrome extension right now, or you may have it on Safari right now. I took it off about 2 weeks ago. But the backstory is, if you wanted to go to Amazon, if you wanted to buy something from Amazon or wherever, right before you check out, there's an area where you can put in like a promo code. And that's where Honey really shines. And what it does is it will ask you before you purchase, it will say, hey, can we search for different coupon codes to see if we can get you the best deal? So instead of paying full price, you may be paying, 10%
off,
5% off, 30% off, all that stuff. It sounds like a great deal. And initially it was great. I've been using it up until I found out about this issue a couple of weeks ago. But what Honey has been doing, Honey has also teamed up with a bunch of YouTubers and basically started sponsoring their videos in exchange for saying, hey, just kind of big us up, Honey. We'll sponsor one of your videos, but just let people know, like, hey, Honey's out there. And millions of people, tens of millions of people use Honey daily. It's installed on their app. So companies hate, or, companies that sell, they hate Honey, right? Because they always have to put a discount or always can't get the full price if you have Honey. And we love it, right? Because we get a discount. So what Honey was doing, once they reached a certain amount of users, what they started doing, which was shiesty, is they would go to the company and they would say, hey, listen, Macy's, we got like 30 million users who are going to be able to use this 10%, 20%, or 30% discount on your item, whatever it may be. Why don't we do this? Rather than let them use 30%, why don't we make a deal where you'll give them 10%, right? You give them 10% off, and then you give us another 10% as a kickback. And then we will reroute that coupon code for it to only give 20% off, basically. So rather than give them rather than give the user a 30% off coupon, we'll just make sure that everybody, without even knowing, gets 20% off. So that you guys save, we get our kickback, and then the customer thinks that they're getting the best deal out there, right? So that was shiesty move number one. Then the second shiesty move that they were doing is when they teamed up with the YouTubers, each YouTuber would get a coupon code, right? So, hey guys, like, make sure you use my coupon code and I'll get a little kickback. You're supporting the channel. And then, you'll get your discount, whatever you may get. So what was happening is you go to Amazon, you put in, docs outside the box, DOTB. Well, unknowingly, what would happen is Honey would change that code without you even knowing. If you put in DOTB, would change it to their special type of code that would not only decrease the amount of savings that the user would get, but it would completely erase the kickback that the YouTuber would get.
Oh!
So that was shiesty move number two. And
oh, Lord.
This video went viral. I don't know where that video is. I got to look it up. But that video went viral a couple of weeks ago. And since then, I think Honey lost at least 10 to 15 million users, like in a span of at least 48 to 72 hours. So it's crazy. But Honey, this is one of those examples of Honey or any of these type of apps, like, they're telling you one thing. Basically, it's that, what is that game? 3-card Monte, or what is that what's the shell game?
I don't know.
It's that shell game that you see on the streets where, like, you think that you're going to win, but you're always going to lose. Like, there's always someone out there to scam you. And that's what they were doing. They were scamming the public, and they were scamming the people who they were partnering with. And in essence, they were kind of extorting the companies also. So I took it off my I'll go back to using YouTube or using Google to find my promo codes and go from there. Thoughts?
Well, thoughts. That is really messed up. I mean, considering, you have you have what you think is a partner in Honey, and all of a sudden this partner is actually, it's in essence stealing from you, right? Mm-hmm. They're stealing from you because what they've done is, you've marketed for them and you didn't really pay them for the marketing. So you, in essence, have just stolen the money by just withholding the money that you say that they were owed. You breached the contract. That's really messed up. Do they have like Stark laws?
I don't know, but
for Honey.
But I'm assuming that there's going to be a class action lawsuit.
Oh, it has to be.
There's going to be a class action lawsuit
It
that's going to
has
be
to
coming
be.
up. I mean, not only just with the YouTubers that, in essence, they basically got cheated because they got the money up front to make the video, but as we all know, like a lot of times that money, that's really finite, right?
Mm-hmm.
The infinite money or the real evergreen money is what you get on the what do you call it? The affiliate deals. In essence, that's the affiliate deals. Like you could look at someone like, one of my favorite YouTubers is MKBHD, right? Like anything that he puts out there, he's the king of tech, right? Anything that he puts out there is the truth. So if he says that a product is blessed, if he says that it's whack, the product is going to do, respectively, whatever he says.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine he has a link to any of those pages. And if you click on his page and then you go and buy the product, there's a windfall that you can get from it. Like Tesla, right. I remember like years ago, Tesla used to have this referral program. They still do, where like if you refer people, if you get a Tesla and then you use your link to, invite other people to purchase a Tesla, then you get a whole bunch of like credits, and eventually like you get like free supercharging for life, which is a big deal, right? Because supercharging can cost anywhere between $20 to like $50 per charge. Right. So if you can get free supercharging, in essence, that's like free gas for the rest of your life. That's a big deal. So he had sold so many referral links that he's got free charging for life. It's a big deal. Right. So you can imagine if he's trying to sell like a cell phone and he's working with Honey and they pay him, I don't know, let's say they pay him $1,000 to make a video. But the real ads or the real money is going to come from people purchasing, or using that code.
Yeah.
That's all that money that they're stealing from them. So, companies ain't loyal. Just leave it to you like that.
Well,
they are. They're loyal. They're just loyal to themselves.
There you go.
They're loyal. They're just loyal to themselves.
Yeah. That's a major breach.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So if anybody's listening right now, if you have Honey, my advice is just take them off. So, because I've noticed that, first of all, Honey rarely comes up with deals anyway, in my opinion. Honey, have you used it on your?
I've used it every now and then. I can't say, because, I do a lot of my shopping online. I can't say that
Do you have it installed on it? It's installed on your?
I did at one point.
It's installed on yours?
If not still, do.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of people who use it. But I would notice that every time that I would use it, for over the last several years recently, it would say that you already got the best deal anyway, and then just kind of move on. So
I don't know. I don't know how they thought they were going to get away with that.
They were going to get away with it. Someone did the research.
It wasn't for those pesky YouTubers.
Yeah, they did the research and they found out. They're like, yo, this affiliate code is not the affiliate code that they gave me. What is going on? And then they found out.
They probably realized it in the numbers when they were checking their numbers, and they're like, hey, this is what I thought I was
but if you think about
it,
at some point, like your numbers weren't going to match up with the amount of money that you were getting. That doesn't make sense.
And if you think about it, like it's almost like a Good Samaritan type of business. How is this going to make money? Like you're helping me find deals. There's got to be some way that you're getting paid.
Right. I don't have a problem with them getting paid.
It's that you're taking from me for you to get paid.
There's no subscription for it. It's just, hey, just put us on your browser. We'll find the best deals for you. So there's got to be a way to, they make money. It's like Cash App, right? Like a lot of people, they love Cash App initially, and then they put up with the fees that they had to pay until Zelle came out. And like, I don't know how many people use Cash App anymore.
Yeah, not a lot of people are using Cash App as much as they used to. But, I don't have a problem with a company getting paid, right? Like, I don't expect charity work to be done, as an internet business. Like, that is not my expectation. So I always assumed that Honey was going to be making its money by doing kind of a deal with these retailers who are selling things, right? To say, hey, okay, we're going to give your, we're going to give your customers a discount, which frankly, giving someone a discount potentially could make them buy more, right? So whereas, I might not have bought as much, but now that I got a 30% discount, I might feel like, I might want to buy a little bit more. So what you weren't going to make before, you're actually going to make it, some other way. It's fine, right? It's all about volume and numbers and things like that. But for me, I'm just like, how did you think that you were going to get away with not doing
I mean, Honey's been out there for at least
good
10,
on your
10
affiliate
years.
deals.
They've been out
It's
there for
the
at least
lack
10
of
years. and nobody's found out.
transparency.
Yeah.
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 Like I feel like
Yeah.
if they were transparent about it, then it would have went down completely different.
Right.
Well, I think but I think most people would be like, most YouTubers would be like, yeah, I don't want to deal with a situation. It's like, you know, it's the new thing now, right? Which is athletes, musicians, you know, if you create content, you don't want to just be paid for creating an advertisement anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want some equity. That equity can come up in different forms. It could be stock. It could be, you know, some stake in ownership. And in this case, it's, well, for every sale that you make, I want a piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that that's where, you know, even if they said, hey, we were just going to pay you just for the videos, I think a bunch of YouTubers would be like, yeah, no, I can get that from
But
any
here's
company.
the question. Was there a meeting of the minds? Was there a written contract? Or was this just the handshake and now it's my word against yours? And if they were consistent with doing this with every single YouTuber, the question is, would they win if they said, well, this is how we do business? I don't know why they would have thought that I would have done an affiliate deal. Like, that's not the way my company works.
Well, I just leave it like this. Like, if you are a big YouTuber and you're making a video like this against one of a bigger company like Honey,
Mm-hmm.
usually they're on the up and up. So I tend to believe them,
Not
you
saying
know, more
that,
so
no.
than Honey. And I would think that they do deals like this all the time. So I would suspect that they would check their contract before making a video.
I would hope
and
so.
saying that, hey,
Yeah.
you know, not only were they supposed to give me an affiliate deal and it's supposed to give me a code, you know, then I looked at the numbers, it doesn't make sense. Or, you know, I could see right before the exchange is done or the checkout is done, they changed my code, but I took it off.
Yeah.
I took it off sale. So, and, you know, it's up to you guys to decide how y'all want to work with these type of companies, but I took it off, and I guess we could just leave it at that for the sake of the conversation. Let's keep it moving. So,
No matter where you are in your career, you've seen patients your age or younger get seriously injured, have a long-term illness, or even have a mental health issue that affects their ability to work. Now, what if that was you? No, for real, what if that was you? Without disability insurance, how are you going to replace your paycheck? In episode 176, Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance explains why the best time to buy disability insurance is during your residency.
Most physicians acquire their disability policies during residency, and there's several reasons. First of all, when you're younger, you're able to obtain the insurance because they ask you a whole host of medical history. And so you usually don't get healthier over time. Usually you get less healthy over time. So when you're healthy, it's easier to acquire the coverage. Number two, it's also less expensive because it's based on your age and your health. You're not getting younger or healthier over time. So you're at the ideal time. The earlier you get it and the younger you are, the less expensive it's going to be.
So whether you're a resident or you're an attending, it's never too late to protect your income. Renee and I, we use Set for Life Insurance to find a disability policy that fit our needs and budget. So what are you waiting for? Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. Once again, that's setforlifeinsurance.com.
Kiara,
They do.
what else we got on deck? What we got on deck?
All right. So, I wanted your thoughts on. Wow, my brain is drawing a blank. Hold on.
That happens to me all the time.
We can hear those wheels turning.
Reddit. So you had pulled up a post a little while ago about being fulfilled. How doctors should stop being looking to be fulfilled by medicine. Did you want to read the entire Reddit?
Yeah, you want to read the...
Can I bring it up on stage? Are you ready for me?
Yes.
Oh, Alfred
Make sure-
can
you
do
clear
that.
up your desktop, you know.
Get out of here.
So can we please talk more about how we should stop looking to be fulfilled by medicine? Someone writes, I'm slowly starting to understand that the root cause of my residency depression stems from having believed for what feels like forever that I was supposed to be fulfilled by my choice of specialty medicine in general. It sucks to be in your 30s now and realize that if medicine itself is the sole reason I'm supposed to feel fulfilled, then, well, I'm not going to be fulfilled. Even worse is being a single woman in your 30s. Ah, that's where this comes from. Them eggs. In the Midwest, realizing this because options for many family partnership are so scant. Lol. But that's a personal problem. So tell me about when you realize you are a complete person outside of medicine and that being a doctor is still just a job. I don't know what ETA means. Is that
Edited to add.
Estimated. Oh, I was like,
What does that mean?
estimated time of arrival.
Edited to add.
some people are reading this and interpreting it as me saying it's not a fulfilling profession. What I said was that it doesn't fulfill me, not that medicine isn't itself fulfilling. They're different. Think about it. Boom.
Do we have a name for that? Since we
Well, they
read
didn't. They didn't write it to us, but it's in.
No, I mean,
we don't have to give their name. It's just.
why?
It's just in the
It's on
residency.
Reddit.
It's just in the residency thing there. We're not going to give the name. So
You should get somebody to
no,
read it.
we're not. That's not credit. We're just reading what they have to say.
Exactly.
All right. So what say you, Renee?
First of all, I did not write that. So I think the writer makes a very good point. I think that a lot of people go into medicine and other professions thinking, once I get into this, I'm going to be fulfilled, right? Like, okay. The other day we were talking about this, and you guys were talking. You were actually talking about The Pit, that new show, The Pit, and I was asking you because you were like, yeah, it's really real and it's really raw, and I said, well, does it have that kind of like, I'm a doctor and I'm just going to heal and that's what I'm going to do because that's what I meant to do all my life, And I feel like sometimes people think they're going to go into medicine and they're going to have a Grey's Anatomy moment or an ER moment or I don't know, name your medical TV show here. Like there's this new TV show called Doc. And there's a point at which, in the trailer, she was like, basically healing is what I do best. And I'm going to get back to that, and I'm just like, that doesn't happen. And it's probably never going to happen for you, not in that way. So if you're looking to your profession to be fulfilled, then you might be sorely disappointed, and I think that there has to be more to fulfillment than just, I'm going to complete this degree and complete this training. I don't know. I don't think that the writer is wrong at all. So
I agree. And I feel like even the fact that she's mentioned her age, I feel like there's a lot of expectations for us as people, not just as women, but as people to have our shit together by, our 30s.
Right.
It's like, why? Am I dying in the next 10 years? I mean, I could, but realistically,
right.
Why do I have to have it figured out by 30? Like, am I not going to make it to 60? Like, who's to say? Like, there are plenty of people who change directions several times.
Yeah. What's your thought, Nee?
About what she said?
Yeah.
So I think, my vision has changed on it because now I'm 46 and I'm looking back now. Especially when I'm looking at kids now who are not going into medicine, who are, let's say they're trying to figure it out, right? Like I look at my own nephews and nieces who some of them are trying to figure it out versus when I compare it to what I wanted to do. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I think they have it harder now, particularly if you're not knowing if you want to go into like medicine or law or maybe even engineering, because outside of those three things, like if you follow a certain path, you're going to be a doctor. If you follow a certain path, you're going to be a lawyer or you're going to be an engineer or whatever, exactly what you want to be. There's a structured plan to that. But when you're not sure exactly what you want to do and you want to go to college and you want to get a degree and so forth, it's really difficult to kind of figure out what you want to do. So you have to like figure out your purpose a lot earlier on. Whereas you think that you know what you want to do, which you think equates to what your purpose is, which equates to you what your fulfillment is. So you're fulfilled maybe through the path of trying to get into medical school. You're fulfilled and you think you have purpose while you're in med school and in residency. And then you start to see like the realities of being a doctor when you get showcased into residency or you get this showcased to you as an attending. You're like, wait, it's not what I asked for. This is not what I bargained for. This is not what I thought it was going to be like. And I think in essence, it becomes like this existential crisis of like, I'm not fulfilled. And is the end product, which is me being a doctor, is that really what I want? And is that really what's going to fulfill me for the rest of my life?
Right.
And I think that's in essence what that Reddit post is being a doctor alone enough to say, hey, you've accomplished everything in your life and you're satisfied at this point. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, no. But I think that was the same way 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's just that now being a doctor is really, as I tell a lot of people, like, we don't want to say it, but it's almost like a blue collar job at this point, right? It's like, you know, it's at the upper echelon of that. But in essence, it's a job that you check in and you check out. You don't own your patients, particularly if you work for a hospital.
Somebody tell you what to do.
You don't own your patients, you know, and you work with your patients still. It's still a great job. I love it. It's fulfilling. It's a profession, but, you know, it's not the end all be all that I think a lot of people think about. And I think that we have to be a lot more open about that and having these type of discussions. And I'm glad that it came up on the Reddit post. But in that TV show, The Pit, or even in ER, I always got that sentiment. Like, it was just like, this is very gritty, right? Like, being a doctor or going through the process is a very gritty process. And the end goal, you're super focused on that. But you got to know that at the end, like, you're going to have to do something else afterwards. You can't just rest on the laurel of, I became a doctor and yes, I made it and that's it. It's like, all right, well, you know, what other tricks can you do?
Right.
So I definitely get it. Like, if you're a woman who's delayed having children, and now you're in your mid 30s and you're getting close to AMA, it's going to be really shocking and jarring. Like, we went through that and stuff, right?
That was your fault, though.
Is it my fault?
Question.
For the sake of the podcast, should we delve into that? Guys, we need some ratings.
Should have married me sooner.
Let's skip that.
There you go.
I have
That's
a
on our
question.
Patreon page. Yeah.
So
What's your question?
when it comes to being fulfilled, whether it's by medicine or any other profession, do you think that any of it has to do partially with the conditioning of society in general? Where we're conditioned to believe like you need to have, you know, a 6-figure job and, you know, in order to be happy and fulfilled, you need to meet these certain criteria and the expectations and whatnot. Do you think that plays a role?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, let's be real, right? 50 years ago, the society's goal of you making it was white picket fence, house, you know, 2.5 children.
And a
dog and, you know, working at GM or working at a car company and having like a, what kind of job is that? A union type job, right? And then, you know, modernization occurs, globalization occurs, and that's falls to shit. And now it's something else, right? Like you look at my kids right now, they want to be a YouTuber, right? Like my son, my oldest son.
He wants to drive Uber.
He wants to either drive Uber or he wants to be a YouTuber because that's freaking glamorous to them, right? That's what they see on TV. That's what they see on YouTube. That's what they, you know, so it's literally what society puts out there is what we're going to value the most, right? So that's how I feel. I believe, I think that the nostalgia that we have with doctors, that's gone.
It's waning.
It's gone, right? Like there's a show, I got to look it up. What's his name? I forgot his name. The lung doctor. I forget what his name is, but he's. Is it Dr. Jarrett?
No, it's not Jarrett. Judd. Rudd.
Yeah.
Judd Rudd.
Anyway, my man's has got a podcast.
Oh my God, I don't know why I just like had a brain fart for his name.
He's got a podcast that's coming out. He's a good guy. He's got a podcast coming out, and it's basically him and a co-host. It's going to be on video, and it's also going to be on audio, and it's like medicine explained. And basically, they're going to debunk all these myths and all these different things. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, this show will do really good. But I'm like, damn, the fact that we actually need this show is very telling, right? And I was thinking, I was going to leave him a message, but in my mind, I'm like, is this show even going to do well, right? Because people don't trust doctors anymore. People don't trust medical institutions anymore unless you're in an absolute emergency, right? Or unless you actually need to buy into the system, then they'll trust you. And even then, they don't even 100% trust you.
Well, that's because we have access to information.
Correct.
Too
But
much
it's a
information.
very interesting place to be. When I saw that, I was like, man, like he's going to create a show where they're debunking certain things. First of all, why would someone even believe them? Right? Like they're just saying whatever they're saying. And granted, they're doctors. I believe them. But the question is, will the general public actually believe them? I don't know.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I think that's, it, I think so.
That's where we're at in
The
society.
power of that show, that kind of show, is that there will be lots of debate, right? Because there will be people who don't believe them, but then there will be people who do, right? So I think, we're kind of like on a half and half, where you have half of society, or at least this society, that really believes in doctors. And then you have the other half that's just like, nah, they get kickbacks from, your prescriptions. I'm like, really? Tell me where to sign up, because I ain't getting nothing yet. But, so I think we're half and half. But to your question about,
Do you believe some of that stuff is true?
what?
Because it's like, some of these things that we are questioning now, like some of that stuff is based on truth. Like, how like now, like it's really cool for like the right to like question the FBI and stuff. But it wasn't cool like back in the 80s when black people were questioning the FBI, like, yo, you bringing crack cocaine into Los Angeles, and nobody wanted to believe all this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody wanted to believe any of this stuff.
Now it's like, you're bringing crack cocaine into the hood.
And now because it's like Uber, because it's like Uber, like Vogue now to like question FBI. Everybody wants to question FBI.
Yeah.
Like, damn, didn't y'all see Snowfall? Like, come on. I'm serious. Like, right? We've been saying the FBI been crooked for years, for decades. Damn.
No, but to your question about, to your previous question. Yeah. Well, to your previous question, I think, especially for women, right? The thing about women, especially those who want to go into medicine, oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes the dictum is wait until you have finished everything possible in your career and then pursue very seriously anyway a relationship. You could be in a relationship.
Who's saying that though?
I'm saying that this is kind of like that part of society, right? That, that has kind of a hold on women basically going into medicine or these types of professions that are considered, high powered or at least take a lot of education, right? Don't get derailed by that man in your life. Don't let him impregnate you, otherwise you won't finish and then you'll be dependent on him and you're an independent woman and that's the way it's supposed to be, right?
Is that
you're
society?
a 90s girl.
Is that society speaking?
It is
or
society.
I'm asking,
No,
is society or is that like
It is
self-imposed from women on their own?
No, that's society.
It's
That's society. Think about
In
it.
order for
Your
women
mother
to
told
equally
you.
compete with men, we have to put ourselves on the same level. So men aren't out here getting pregnant and putting
Right.
their careers on pause. We do. We get pregnant. We have to put our careers on pause. So in order to keep it balanced, we have to put that side to the side.
Exactly. Your own mother told you, right? Just go to school. Don't worry about anything. Just go to school, finish, become a doctor first. And what did you do?
I became a doctor first.
Exactly.
But isn't that so? But okay, but that point would just be saying that message is equal, right? Because I get the message just as I don't know if you got the message.
You got that message.
Right.
You got that message, but a lot of men are not necessarily getting that message.
My kid's gonna get that message.
Okay. A lot of men are not necessarily getting that message.
But would that message be the same message you tell your daughter? Because technically, we are women in general are on a biological time clock.
I tell my niece the same thing.
Right. So
don't get hemmed up by no dude.
But then why are you asking the question, Nee?
But I guess from my standpoint, it's like, isn't that
It's not. I don't think it's very equal.
Okay,
I think, and this is why I said many women, not all, but many women, especially those that are headed in careers that take a lot of time to attain, a lot of education to attain. It's like, no, stay laser focused, because if you get pregnant, right? If let's say you got a girl pregnant in med school, right? Let's say that happened. How does that affect your career?
Majorly.
But how? You would have to drop out?
Possibly.
What's the likelihood that you would have to drop out? What's the likelihood? Like
I mean,
from 0 to 100,
I mean, there's a lot of different
100 being
factors, right? Like
100%, you would have to drop out.
So, okay, first of all, is the girl in med school with me? Is the girl not in med school?
Let's
Right?
say you got me pregnant in med school.
So then okay. So then you're in med school too, right?
Yes, I'm
so
in
that
med
means
school
you
too.
more than likely will be taking time off to be with the child, right?
Either pregnancy complications, or I got to stay with the child, or something.
Well, I think the big thing would be then would we be able to sustain some type of housing, food, all those different things.
But you had loans.
Hold on.
You were living on loans.
Can I do that on the loans, right?
Okay.
Can I do that on the loans, right? Because it all depends on how much you take out, right? Like if you're taking a minimum amount,
I
can you sustain now?
to take a step back for a second. So you're thinking as 40-something-year-old me with logic. I need you to go back to what?
Right.
20-something-year-old
me, 24-year-old me.
That was paying for stuff of my loans.
Right.
So
that's what I'm trying to figure out. So
24-year-old
now,
me.
right. So
Would
now
you have dropped out?
Right.
It's possible.
I doubt it, because I knew him when he was 24, and there was no way in hell this man was going to drop out of medical school. No way. There is no way in hell you would have dropped out of medical school. Nope. Absolutely
If
not.
you had a child?
If I had a child in medical school, you would not have dropped out.
I would have tried to figure out a way to stay in, right?
You would have.
That's possible, yeah.
It's not possible. That's what it is.
But my question then is, so then what if there's no way to pay for food, formula, all those different things? Because there's a point where like your loan check is your loan check,
But
right?
but first of
We
all,
would go on WIC or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
There's right. If it came to that point, right? Let's just assume that we would have had no family support. Let's assume, right? Because I don't think that that's what would have happened.
You wouldn't have had family support.
I would have had a lot of family support. I would have had a lot of family support. No, you wouldn't have had family support.
I would have family support.
Because they would be like, stupid boy. What stupid boy? You let this girl get you hemmed up, as they say.
This Haitian girl.
She's Haitian. She's Haitian too. Oh, nee. That's how your mother would have said. Anyway, he's laughing.
I hope she's not listening.
Because he's thinking,
Because
he's thinking about it. He's like, yo, she's not wrong.
Oh my God.
Right, so let's get back to the topic. So
the point being that there's a very, very unlikely chance that you would have dropped out of school and that that your career would have been majorly affected. Whereas for me, my career would have been much more affected, right? Because you're talking about the responsibility of raising a child. I'm talking about the actual, like, being pregnant, right? Me being pregnant would not affect you in any way, shape, or form. Not physically, not socially. Well, maybe socially. If I told everybody you was the baby daddy.
We're not talking about that, but I mean, I think.
But that's what you're talking about. We're talking about there are many more implications, to being pregnant, right? So, you're talking about food, housing, clothing, all this kind of stuff. Those things are very important, but we're not talking about, the condition of being pregnant, the complications that potentially come with being
So would you have dropped out if you were pregnant?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
What would be the percentages if you could go back?
I would have to say it would be 50-50. I really don't know what I would have done. If
Would you have done a sabbatical? You probably would have just done a sabbatical. So that's not really jumping out.
Well, that's the thing with sabbaticals,
but
right? A lot of people who take sabbaticals don't
come back. Right. So you come back, you try, you take a leave of absence.
Now I got a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a child of a baby mama who got debt. So.
But we're not married, so what's the big deal? We're not married. We weren't married.
I'll tell you. How about
and
I
I
tell
wouldn't
you?
have married you.
I share my version. Maybe Nee will understand a little bit better. So
here we go. I had a month. She's gonna drop the bomb. She's gonna drop the bomb on us. Here we go.
I had 3 months left of my bachelor's. I lived in Hawaii. David, my husband, moved down to Florida. I had my son with me. At this point, I found out I was pregnant, August 2018. Completely unexpected. I was on birth control, whatever. In my mind, I had a vision, right? I'm going to graduate. I'm going to pursue either further education or a job. Okay. I end up pregnant. David and I meet up again in December. I'm about 20 weeks, right? I'm starting to show because this is my second pregnancy. You show a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would hire me. Nobody would hire me because they knew for a fact that, I would go on maternity leave at some point.
Right.
I actually didn't have a job from when I graduated all the way up until I started freelancing. And that was only, I freelanced because I couldn't get a job. Nobody would hire me.
Right.
It did not affect my husband at all.
Right.
Me being pregnant did not affect him at all. He got up, he went to work, he lived his life, he promoted, he woke up and did his... Me being pregnant did nothing for him except add another mouth to feed, obviously.
Right. Exactly. Once the baby came.
I respect that. Thank you for sharing that.
And not even once the baby came so much. Well, could be once the baby comes, depending on how you decide you're going to feed this baby.
She breastfed for 3 years, for almost 4 years.
Right. If you breastfeed, then that's another obligation that you have.
And we got to deal with your feet and all that stuff. Like, oh my God.
What are you complaining about, me? What are you complaining about? Listen, you invited us to the show.
Anyway.
Exactly.
All right. So back to the
you got to feed this kid until he's like 3 years old.
Back to this topic. So I get your point. I respect that. But I do. So I think in general, what did you want?
Well, the last thing, the point I was making from this whole conversation before it started was that, fulfillment comes, I think, from a lot of things, and it can't just come from one thing. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of women actually make. Once they realize that, wait a minute, there are other things, and men do this too, but I can only speak from a woman's perspective, that once they realize that I've finished down this path of attaining this career and I want other things, and I'm still not necessarily fulfilled, sometimes, depending on where they are and how old they are, it actually might be too late, or it might be very challenging for them to reach that. So I think for the women out there, just, be very careful about thinking that you're going to be fulfilled only by your career, because that's very unrealistic. And I think Doc G, Jordan Grummett, the previous episodes that you had with him, it kind of talks about purpose and, what is meant by purpose, and the small P in purpose versus the large P in purpose. I think you got to be really, really careful about that.
No doubt.
So,
no doubt. Kiara?
What are you going to say?
No, I'm good. I'll leave it as.
Yes.
It'd get me in trouble.
Did we beat this horse to death?
So it's actually going to be on the same theme. There was a Twitter post.
This is from Coffee Black MD.
So you were willing to say that user.
I couldn't see the name of the other person. It just took too long.
The other one I think was like Pretty Beaker, but I couldn't see it.
Coffee Black says, I know working these nights are slowly killing me faster, and a decade ago it didn't bother me too much, but now that I'm playing in the back nine of this mortal existence, I find this realization depressing and dissatisfying. Who will do the work if I don't? I'm getting to the point where I don't care who does it any longer. Everything else I'm doing outside of my employed work is in pursuance of leaving the ICU and these nights behind. I've done my duty, not my problem.
NMP.
Hey, listen, man, I'll just leave it like this. Those nights it's a different animal. My mother did nights as a nurse, a nursing aide for at least 15 years, 20 years. And I feel like it aged another 30 years on her. Like the amount of, what we should have did is we should have looked up, like, there's got to be some PubMed articles that talk about what night shift does to you in terms of your circadian rhythm, how tired you are. Like for me, the biggest thing is like when you get home from a night shift, like, is that breakfast really, or is that dinner? If you want to work out, like if you want to spend time, like how does all of this work? Is it in reverse? So I like to do night shift mainly because, I like to put out fires. And then during the daytime, I like to be out. But also at the same time, I like to do daytime in a certain fashion. But I'm not going to lie, like night shift while you're doing it, like in the night shift is okay. It's the afterwards, like how do you recover when you're finished with your night shift? And it takes, like, for me, 3 to 4 days to really get back into a regular rhythm where I'm sleeping during the daytime and not, being up at night. That's where I struggle. And you can tell, like,
Mhm.
I'm way more irritable the next couple of days after I finish a night shift.
Which isn't saying much because you're always irritable.
Well,
but-
that's true. That is true. But it stands out more, right? It stands out more when I'm doing night shift. And I think there's something to be said about night shifts really tax the hell out of you, which I think is the reason why a lot of people always ask for like a pay differential, right? People say, look, if I'm working nights, you have to pay me more because I want more compensation
Well,
for working these
yeah.
crazy ass nights.
Yeah.
But then I think in there also is a little bit of that quote unquote moral injury, which is like, you know, if I don't do night shift, then who the hell is going to do the night shift, which is a bit of like that moral injury and a bit of that, what's the word I want to say? The martyr syndrome also, you know, so I don't know. Look, not my problem is an approach that I don't want to describe as the way that you have to look at it, but there has to be a point where everybody has to basically check out. Right? Like there's a point where you have to check out and it's like, this is not my issue anymore. You go, the next person handles it. I see that a lot. One of the jobs that I have Tiger Text, which I absolutely can't stand.
Hey, Tiger Text.
If anybody's listening,
I don't care.
There's different types
I
of
hate
Tiger
it.
Text out there. There's Amion messaging. There's Tiger
Hate
Text. But Kiara, basically what it is imagine anybody in the hospital being able to get in touch with you through messaging on an app. Right. And it sends messages through you that are HIPAA compliant through your phone. Right. And anybody can send you a message. Right. And when they send you this message, they can tell if you read it and they can tell if you haven't read it or not. And there's a lot of times where I think I don't like these apps because it decreases the barrier for people to reach you and to, like, in essence, information dump. So i.e., like, I think for nurses, it completely takes them off the hook. So if things are very important and they need to get in contact with you, great, contact me. You can call me, you can text me, that's fine. But there are things that are really not that big of a deal, but because it's just information that they don't want to deal with anymore and they just want to unload, they will call you or they will text you about things that, in essence, not all of them, but I'm just saying what it does is just makes it easier for them to get in contact with you. So at 2:00 in the morning, you may get called about a potassium that's like 3.4, which to you, that's not that big of a deal. Like, we can talk about this at 7:00 in the morning, right? And I'm using that as an example, but there's times where doctors will consult other doctors with this app and send messages. And I'm like, I think you should call somebody. I think as a doctor, you should call another doctor to say, hey, listen, I need to consult you for X, Y, and Z reasons.
That's not even an option anymore.
Because of this, right? But now with Tiger Text, you literally take a picture of the patient's face and you take a picture of their picture in the EMR system. The MRN number is already there. And then you write and text what the diagnosis is. And then that's it. No context, no connotations. And then that person figures it out and then they leave their note. I don't like that.
Neither.
Right? Because I need to know exactly why you're contacting me. What's the issue? Do I need to respond immediately or not? And so forth. So all of those apps I really don't like. But the gist of me bringing it up is these apps, a lot of times the apps will say when you're off and when you're not off, but there's an option where people can bypass that. They can bypass the do not disturb option and still contact you even after hours. Yeah.
So there's no boundary.
Right. Right. You can put do not disturb on Tiger Text, but if the message is priority enough, it could bypass that and get you a message. So for me, I log off completely. When my shift is over, I log off because I don't want any messages. Whatever it is, I'm not on.
If it's that important, you need to call.
Right. That's how I feel about it. So I think that one, there's no boundaries, which is an issue. But also at the same time, I just feel like working at night is very abnormal. That's just not the way how our bodies work. So I could see what that person is going through because it's a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, the issue, right, is that it's kind of like when my nephew was 13 years old and I think he had hurt his leg or whatever. And we were like, come on, hurry up. We got to get to the hospital. And he goes, well, what time does the hospital close? And I said, well, the hospital does not close. Right. And that's the issue is that hospitals cannot close. Like that is, they just can't. Right. They can't close. And so somebody has to do those nights. You just got to figure out if you are the person who is best suited to do those nights, right? If you are okay with being a doctor, but you are not okay with working a certain shift or, working in a certain setting, I think this is really, really, this particular tweet or whatever what do they call it? Tweets now? X's?
They just ain't nobody saying X's.
Okay. I'm like, what?
It's
Post?
tweets. It's tweets, man.
Post. We'll call it post. This particular post really highlights,
You can even see here, look, here are the ABG results. We'll upload to EHR when it's back. It seems convenient, right?
Yeah.
But
this is not the way that it should really be done, but that's okay. And younger generations may disagree with us. But somebody's got to work the nights. You have to figure out, right? This post is a really, really, really good example of someone who potentially is working in a fashion that doesn't really suit him, right? He probably needs a different environment if he indeed still wants to be in medicine, right? So he doesn't have to work nights, right? That is almost kind of his choice, basically, to work nights. Like he gets to choose how he wants to work based on the job that he takes. And so if this is not something that, he wants to do, then the question is, well, sir, should you be moving on to somewhere else? Right? Like I need to play devil's advocate here because it's not like someone kidnapped him and made him work in the hospital at night. Right? This is just kind of the way things work. Like just because the hospital needs someone at night doesn't mean that that's the job that you should be taking. And maybe you should just take another job.
I'm not speaking for him, but I know a lot of people will take nights because it works for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that part.
Wait,
I don't get that part.
What do you mean?
One of the comments actually mentioned that, what does it say? It's like, no one remember all the long hours you worked except for your children, which is funny because you actually mentioned that with your mom. You're like, oh, when you were a kid, my mom used to work the night shift, and it's like, you don't really think about that.
Right.
Yeah. I can't understand. To this day, I still don't understand the rationale behind working nights because it's better for the kids. I think.
No, you work nights because it's better for the kids so that you can be home during the day.
You'd be home during the day.
Yeah, you'd be home during the day.
But then they are at school by the time you get home,
yes,
or
but
getting
you
ready
can
to go
still
to
make
school.
it to their stuff.
Yeah, but
their
you can
events,
still make it
their activities,
right.
their trips,
Exactly.
their parent-teacher conferences, their
Exactly.
performances.
Right.
Okay, that's the reason why.
Right, because if you
and
think
then you
most
leave, and
night
then you
shifts,
you leave before they go to bed.
Right.
You
might leave right before they go to bed. So most night shifts will start between between 6 and 8 p.m. depending on where you're working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So between 6 and 8 p.m. I mean, your kids are home from school, you've cooked them dinner, you might have even taken them to, some sort of event, some extracurricular activity, or if they had something at school, you woke yourself up, in the middle of the day and you went, or if there was a meeting that you had to have with their teacher, you were able to make it. So it makes complete sense. The question is just, is that worth it? Right. And I don't know if he has kids, but is that worth it for him to do? And if that is worth it, then yes, he will just have to endure those nights. That's just what will have to happen. He'll have to endure those nights, or he has to find a different way of working.
Yeah, and you guys aren't locked in. Just so everybody who's listening,
you're not locked into this.
You can do whatever you want to do and change it up, within the scope of what's out there. So
if
you don't like nights, then switch to days. And if you don't like days, then you're going to have to do something different. But I just think that what I tell, like there was a med student on the service a couple weeks ago. He's interested in going into trauma critical care. And I told him like the reason why I love trauma critical care is because I could do 3 different things. I could do trauma, I could do critical care, and then I could do general surgery. And in this job that I'm doing right now, I'm doing it all together. But there are things about it that I don't like, and I'm learning, and I have been able to kind of push certain things out that I don't enjoy as much. And then also at the same time, there's like lifestyle things that I really appreciated that I think 10 years ago, if you asked me about it, I probably would not share it, but now I'm very open with sharing it. Like when I'm on, I'm on. When I'm off, I'm off, and that's it. I enjoy taking care of other people's complications, and, I enjoy signing out and, realizing that, although we don't want complications when they occur, it's not necessarily the end of the world, so to speak, right? Like if somebody else finds it and fixes it and so forth. I think that's the big thing is there's a lot of folks who are, low key control freaks and they're like, well, I don't want this to occur. And it's like, well, they stay on and then you're tired. And it's like, well, you staying on to do a 30-hour shift, is that really worth it to the patient as opposed to maybe signing out after 12 hours, and letting a fresh person and go from there. And what I've seen is that there's less errors, there's less mistakes, there's less takebacks to the OR because people make mistakes. So in general, like from a surgical perspective, I always give men and women the same advice and say, listen, like if you're looking for a lifestyle or if you're looking for a job or a profession or a specialty that works and gives you the best of both worlds where you can operate and kind of, still have your life. I think ER obviously is very, is compatible with that. Trauma is compatible with that. I don't know about OB. OB is really difficult right now.
So I was going to, it's so funny that you're going on this point because I was actually going to say something that's kind of the opposite of what you're saying, right? Because I'm OB, I get a lot of young women, especially, who will contact me. They're either in med school or about to enter or they're pre-med and they're like, well, I really like OB, but, the lifestyle, it's not conducive to like a family lifestyle or whatever. And then once I start telling them how I work, they're like, how in the world are you doing that? Like, what do you mean you're with your kids majority of the days of the week? And I'm like, majority of the days of the month, I'm actually with my kids. Like, so I think there needs to be a shift in how students are, and even full-fledged doctors are looking at how they work in their specialties, right? There's a very traditional way of looking at, well, does ER give us the good lifestyle that we want? Yes. Great. Check ER as something I want to do. Does internal medicine do that? Maybe no. It doesn't do that. So no, I won't do that. Like those days are gone, right? And especially because the way that people are practicing now, with us doing locums, with people being, surgicalists and hospitalists and things like that, like those traditional ways of looking at these professions is done. You don't have to be an OB that goes into the office 6 days, 5 days a week, and then be on call the 6th day of the week. Like you don't have to do that anymore.
There was this article.
So,
I never got a chance to read this article full-fledged, but this was one of those things where you see this young doctors want work-life balance. Older doctors say that's not the job, And it's like, well, it's going to be the job when you retire.
Right. Exactly.
That's just the way it is,
and the younger generation. And I say that loosely because I'm not that old.
What's up with the subscription, yo? Anyway, real quick, yo, let's talk about the subscriptions, yo. Yo, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, CNN.
Give it up for free.
Damn, man. Everybody wants a subscription, yo.
Like, you make your money off the ads. Just like, come on. It's $1.
Damn. Anyway, go ahead, Kiara. We cut you off, yo. This is the last point. Go ahead, yo, because we got to end this show.
The younger generation is, they're very adamant and firm on their boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the older generation has an issue with that just in general, because they grew up with the go, go, go mentality, whereas we watched them. We watched them struggle. We watched them go hard and whatnot, work themselves to the bone. And then it's like, what do you get at the end?
Right.
So it's like, you didn't get to travel. You're not even happy with your job. You weren't home for your kids. We're all like in our 30s now, and you're mad because you missed us as children. And
I think you're missing one point. Another point is the reason why medicine is the way how it is right now is because y'all old fogies. Y'all the one who messed it up for us.
They sold it. They sold it to big corporations.
I think that's the other perspective that I think a lot of younger doctors are like, y'all messed it up.
Mm-hmm.
And now you mad that now we're kind of taking it back in a way that you wish you could have taken it back. You see that in every industry. You see that in sports. You see like older basketball players are upset with the newer basketball players. Why y'all making so much money? Y'all not as skilled as us, X, Y, and Z. How is it that you're able to determine you're not going to play all these different games? It's like, listen, old fogey, like, don't be mad because now I'm able to just really be very clear about what I want, what I don't want, when I'm going to play, all these different things.
Right.
It's the same thing that you see in medicine.
That's what it is.
Correct.
We're not yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah. It changed. The landscape has changed.
The landscape has changed. Just let's go.
Exactly.
Let's
You
do it.
you should be happy that you even have this opportunity, kind of thing.
But then there's also, there's give and take, right? Like experience. Yeah, the ability to see certain cases, the
Mhm.
ability to see certain things that, if you spend a significant amount of time in a hospital that you may not be able to see, comfort level, all those different things play a role. And for us to not say that or mention that, like, we'd be remiss if we didn't say that.
He loves that word.
It'd be remiss if we didn't say that. So yeah, there's a give and take, right? There's a
I
give
will
and
say
take.
this
Absolutely.
though, having lived up north and in bigger cities like California, San Diego area-ish, and living down in the South is completely different. Up north, it's very go, go, go. Everything's open. Like if I want to go to Walmart, it's 24 hours.
Right.
Over here, Walmart closes at like 10.
Mm-hmm.
Some stores don't open on Sundays.
Right.
You cannot go to the liquor store on a Sunday. Whereas up north, you got every day of the week. It's some doctors don't open on Wednesday. Like Wednesday's a half day here. So if you want to go, you got to go before like 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
You
It's
got a
also
Piggly
just-
Wiggly near you too, right? Don't you?
I actually do.
Ah, ha, ha.
I do.
Look at that.
It's like Mama's family over there.
Yeah.
I've never been in though, but we do have at least two of them about 20 minutes from where I am.
Piggly Wiggly. Go down to the
Judge a book by its
Piggly Wiggly.
All right,
I'm gonna
Kiara,
tell
is
you right
that
now, you
it
can't
for-
get me to go back north.
Really?
You just can't.
Like Jersey or like New York? I know New York is out of the picture, right? Because
No, New York for sure is out of the picture, but just in general, just up north. First of all, it's expensive for no reason up there. It's overcrowded and expensive.
Like, who's moving to New York? Like, I want to know who's moving to New York. Like, seriously. Like, especially, like, if you're a doctor, like, are you moving to New York? Or if you're a medical student?
I think there's a lot of young people who are very interested in going to New York, and they want to experience
Because
it.
of the dream,
the
dream
Yes.
of, just the big city and just because they think that that's what it's about. And it's like,
Yeah, it's not it.
Well, they got to experience it first. Let them experience it first. Let them see.
I won't ruin it for
Let them
you.
see.
Spoiler
75
alert.
Let them see 50% or 75% of their check go towards housing.
Exactly.
Like, let them see
Let
it.
them
and
complain about going on strike.
Let them
I
come
see
home.
it all the time
Let them
where it's
come
like
home and not find parking and have to drive around their block like 30 times until somebody moves their car.
Right.
Yeah,
Or taking the train
You
where
just gotta
it's
live-
dirty
you
as
got-
hell.
You got to live through that. You know what I'm saying? You got to live
there's
through that.
a guy who's, I don't know, he comes across my feed every now and then where he actually views apartments in New York. And it's like, I'm not even lying. I wish I was lying. It's like a box.
Yes,
It's a box.
I've seen it.
And he's like, yeah, here's your kitchen. And I'm like, this is, and then he'll be like, yeah, it's like $3,500 a month. And I'm like, for a
Yes.
box?
Yes.
I can
And you got a
build
shared
that.
bathroom. And you have a shared bathroom.
Yes.
You don't even have a bathroom in your apartment.
And I'm
It's
laughing.
basically
I'm
a
laughing.
hostel.
I've lived, like when I was younger, I lived in a basement with my mom, my sister in a studio. Okay. And to divide it, my mom put up curtains. That was our bedroom. We had our little kitchen with a little table, and this makeshift, living room. Now, look, I'm not ungrateful. Honestly, I turned out okay, right? But there were times where we were latchkey kids, right? My mom used to tell us, once you go in the house, do not open that door. So there were times I would actually have to use a bucket to use the bathroom, my sister and I. Because our bathroom was actually, we had to go out, go through the hallway into the back.
Yeah.
Where the bathroom was. Where there was another apartment. There was another, there were renters in the apartment in the back. And there was a kitchen back there, but the kitchen belonged to the man who lived upstairs.
So he could access it at any time.
Yes. And we shared that bathroom with the man upstairs. So he would come down to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
And me and my sister, we're small. We're about 11, 12 years old. And so she wouldn't let us do that. And I didn't ever ask her. I should ask her how much she used to pay, but I'm like, I can't even imagine that situation for her.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen those type of apartment situations in New York.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in Manhattan.
Absolutely.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So y'all thinking about moving to New York. Good luck. Good luck.
All right. I have one
roommates.
more. One more.
Do we have time to do this? Do we have time to do it?
We do. It's a listener question. I believe
Gotta
it's
listen to the listener.
Jamar. I can share it.
It's been a while.
Hey fam, it's Jamar again. I know it's been a while since I texted. I still been staying tuned in. just some updates. I've been shadowing an orthopedic surgeon once a month for the
I'm
last
sorry.
3 months. And it's been, oh shit. I see you ain't replacing potassium on there. And it's been enlightening, exciting, and unsettling. Not unsettling. You ever notice that an orthopedic surgeon never writes to me and says, yo, like, what you saying is crazy?
I'm like waiting for
They'll never
orthopedic
say that.
surgeons
They know.
to be like, why you always hating on us?
They know. Come on, mechanics.
No, we love
Stop
y'all.
playing.
We
Stop
love
playing.
y'all.
We love y'all mechanics.
But somebody got to be the butt.
We
of the
love y'all
jokes,
mechanics.
and we chose you.
Appreciate y'all mechanics.
You're welcome.
Not unsettling in the sense that I was squeamish in the OR. I love that part. From the prep to the first incision to closing. I mean, unsettling in a very introspective manner. So I have a question. Have you, and how often, ever questioned if you were capable of becoming a doctor? Have you questioned what type of doctor you wanted to be, specialty and integrity-wise? You understood why you were doing it, but have you just felt out of place at times? I felt that way the last time I was in the OR observing. I just felt like I'm overstepping my capabilities, overstepping their boundaries in the way. Just wondering, have you felt that? How did you overcome it? As always, thank you for being a great platform that really wants to hear from your audience and being transparent.
That's
I also
right.
want to thank Nee for coming up with this episode and show. And this show is amazing.
It doesn't say that.
Why do you have Dr. Renee on the show? She
Yeah.
seems to be a drag on the show.
Yeah, it doesn't say that.
Would you be interested in having me as a co-host?
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
say that.
Thanks, Jamar.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jamar.
it doesn't say that.
Thanks, Jamar.
But yeah, thank you, Jamar.
Thanks, Jamar.
Thank you, Jamar. Thank you, Jamar, for that question. If you guys remember, Alfred, if you could put this up, we had Jamar on the show, a year ago? Do you know what episode that was, Kiara? Yeah.
All right, Jamar's a pre-med student, obviously.
Yes, he's
so
a
Jamar's a
pre-med.
pre-med student. I think he's from Western Pennsylvania, and this is a very good question. Let me actually put that back up because I got to remember everything that he says because these are some good questions. Because I have felt some of this that he's feeling. So,
But as a pre-med?
not as a pre-med, but as a med student.
As a med student. Okay.
My shadowing activities were very limited. But like I shadowed and I got into the OR and I just, I was in the corner and I watched an operation from far away. So that was my experience. And that was very, what's the word? That could be intimidating. So let's see, what was his question?
His first one was, have you and how often ever questioned if you were capable of becoming a doctor?
You want to go first with that?
The answer is no. I've never questioned it. And I'm not being sarcastic or like playing around.
Big Renee.
Being facetious.
Big
no,
Renee.
I
Okay.
No. Well, I might be cocky. That might be part of it.
She's like, I ain't never questioned
that might be part of it.
I ain't
but
never question it.
But
damn. Okay.
I never questioned whether or not I had the ability to become a doctor. Right. I have questioned, however, like how I'm going to do it. Like, what steps am I going to take? What's the best steps? Like, am I doing it the right way? I have, had those questions in the past, but I never questioned whether or not I was actually going to become a doctor. And part of that is because I felt like, shoot, if other people could do it, why can't I do it? I mean, it can't be, don't take rocket science to become a doctor. That would be a rocket scientist. Now that I question whether or not I could be a rocket scientist.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it that way. I looked at it. I had hella questions. I questioned myself. I applied to medical school twice. And I initially, when I applied to medical school, I applied without really any type of strategy. And I just thought that if I got into medical school, it would probably be, one school I got into and that was it. And then I would probably just try to get through, hang on, and try to graduate. And
that is not what happened. Wait, let me tell the story real quick.
Yeah.
So remember when we first met, right? We had first met in person. We had met on the phone previously. But about 3 months later, we met in person and there was like a small group of us and we were walking through SEP.
Man, tell the story, man.
Anyway, we were walking through this.
Kiara, don't you hate when people say, like, you all got this story that you want to tell, now you asking me to fill in the details?
I didn't ask you to fill in the details. I asked you if you remembered. It was a yes/no question. Okay. So anyway, we were walking through one of the buildings And, the small group of us, maybe about 5 or 6 of us, were talking about, school's about to start. And this guy kept going, oh man, I'm going to just fail out. I'm going to just fail out. And he just kept saying it over and over and over again as we're walking through the building. And mind you, we didn't really know each other that well just yet. So I turned to him and I was like, dude, why don't you just drop out already?
And I did.
And you did, right?
I did. I dropped out, took a year off, and I came back.
Really?
Thank you for the
That's
advice.
what happened?
Yes,
That
I
is
listened
not
to
what
what you said.
happened. But he looked at me like, who the hell is this? You fill in the blank.
So, Jamar, I would say this. The first time I applied to med school, I had hella questions. I didn't know what I was doing. I kind of just tried to figure it out. And I got waitlisted at places. I got flat out rejected at places. I made some big mistakes. I didn't talk to people about it. And when I didn't get in, there was a lot of soul searching that I had to do and a lot of embarrassment that was self-imposed. Like nobody was laughing at me throughout the entire process. Nobody was pointing at me that you didn't get in the mix. It was all me. And I was like, I didn't want to tell my parents, but eventually they were like, hey man, like that money we gave you for that application, what the hell happened? I was like, oh shit, I gotta tell them. Right. And, I was like, yeah, I didn't get in. And, that was a very difficult time because during those couple of months, I graduated from school, from college. Now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So I went and I worked at the Sports Authority, which doesn't exist anymore. So I was selling anything from Jordans to basketball hoops to whatever it may be. I was selling that. Then I worked at CompUSA. And the entire time in my mind, while I was selling all these different things, even my sister, Nadinswa, she tried to get me a job at AT&T.
At Pollo Loco?
No. She tried
At Pollo Loco?
Listen, if I was working at Pollo Loco, I probably wouldn't quit. You know what I'm saying? Because we knew what was going on there, right? But
what was going on at Pollo Loco?
You never saw the TV show?
No.
That's from, what do you call it? From Breaking Bad.
Oh, El Pollo Loco. Yes.
There's a different type of pharmacy going on in there.
I was thinking about Rush Hour.
Yeah, so
Chris,
she got me working at AT&T, or excuse me, got me an interview at AT&T, and it just wasn't working out. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was like, well, I got this degree in biology. Am I just going to just become a PhD? That's not really what I want to do. I want to be a doctor.
Biologist.
I want to be a doctor, but maybe I should go be a teacher. I didn't feel confident that I knew enough to actually teach kids and stuff. It was a struggle. And just so happened, I reached out to my college coaches and I was like, listen, like I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And they said, hey, listen, we have this opportunity where you can become what's called a graduate assistant, where you in essence are a coach for whatever sport. So I was a coach for track and cross country. And what they do is they'll give you a stipend, but then they completely pay for all of your education, right? So if you need to take additional classes, and I'm like, boom, that's what I need. So I kind of talked it over with my parents and, just kind of said I'll go back and do that because it had to be better than me just working at the Sports Authority or CompUSA, right?
You want to know what's funny? Is that you mentioned how you didn't know if you could teach. That's exactly what you ended up doing anyway.
Right. And no, but it's just like, but when you're 21 and you're 22 and you don't have perspective, you're just trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do? I want to be a doctor, but I don't know how to do this.
Right.
So those next 2 years, I struggled through my grad classes, not like academic wise, but I struggled through like trying to figure out, well, am I just trying to get my application stronger? Am I trying to get a master's? Like, what am I doing?
Right. Is this going to work to get me closer to med school? Yeah.
And I just didn't tell anybody that I planned on reapplying because I was just embarrassed. But long story short, there was a big struggle there. I reached out to my mentor at the time and I couldn't get in touch with that person also. So I don't know what was going on with that person during that time, but I couldn't get in touch with him to kind of discuss certain things. That's a different subject, actually. We should talk about that. Like helping your mentees in the good times and helping them in the bad times also. So I figured it out eventually, and I decided to kind of just be a bit more strategic with how I was applying to medical school. And I specifically remember, like, it was during winter break, and I had keys to the track and field office. Everybody's gone. And there was a big snowstorm on campus. And I just remember every day I would just wake up in the morning and I would go and walk through the snow to the office where they had a printer, a fax. They had the legal paper and they had the really nice stock paper. And I remember just like hoping to goodness, like here's my personal statement. I'm going to fold it up. I just remember getting paper cuts and folding it up. And I remember looking at them all and putting a stamp on them and then going to the mailbox and just hoping that they open it and that they, let me in. This is like 2001,
That's
2002.
before all of
So
that
this is not
electronic
this is not
stuff.
electronic.
Mhm.
And I just remember coming back to an empty house. The heater wasn't really working. This is a house that like 7 people lived in, right? So, it was just lonely. And it was just me just kind of figuring out, like, I guess this is what I got to do to kind of figure out where I'm going to be in a year from now. And, slowly but surely the interviews started coming in. And even then there was doubt. And then I got my first acceptance. Then I got my second acceptance. And then I got my third acceptance. And I just want to just let you know that, like, during those 2 years, though, not only this doesn't work for everybody, but during those 2 years, all of that uncertainty, all of that not knowing what to do really made me hungry. And it got me to the point where, as Renee knows, I'm extremely competitive, right? And once I got in, I was like, yo, now that I'm here, I'm knocking this out the door, right?
Even though you walked through the building and told me you're going to fail.
Well, I was, to her, she doesn't know, but for me, I was just joking around. But there is power in negative speaking, right? So I do think that she got that negative loop out of my mind. But when I came in, I knew what I had to do. And from an academic standpoint, you could ask her. Like, it wasn't
very
hard.
cocky.
It wasn't hard for me at all. It was just, I know, I get this. Like, I've seen all of this stuff before. The anatomy and all that stuff, this is just memorization, and this is repeat, and this is just recycle over and over and over again. But this is not organic chemistry. This is not like physical chemistry. Yeah. This is not like physics. Like, there is some physics, it's sprinkled in, but this is stuff that I really could understand. What the key is can I show up every day, go to class, and then when I come home, eat something real quick and then just review everything over and over and over and over. And after a while, I was like, I got this. I got this.
He was very good in med school.
Yeah.
Very good.
Have you, the second question was, have you questioned what type of doctor you wanted to be, specialty and integrity wise? I'm going to start with an E because I already know Renee's answer.
Yeah, Renee's like,
I struggled.
I knew I wanted to be.
No, I struggled.
I
did struggle.
Like, damn, like, we know. Shit.
I did struggle with specialty. I struggled a lot with specialty.
I hate people like that.
So now you hate your wife. I told you that. Hate your wife. Kick your dog.
I always knew.
Okay.
Did you struggle, or did you ever question being a trauma surgeon?
Yeah, I went back and forth. I thought initially I wanted to, because my inspiration for going to become a doctor literally was The Cosby Show. I ain't gonna front. That was the first black doctor that I saw on TV. And I was like, oh, snap. He's got a great life. His wife, come on, Felicia Rashad? What? Come on, yo. You know what I'm saying? Bad, right? In Brooklyn, got an office in his basement. Like, who doesn't want that type of life, right? For real. So for me, I was like, oh, yeah, like, I want to go to school and I'll be an OB doc. But my first mentoring experience, like with an actual doctor, was a surgeon who was a trauma surgeon. And I was like, oh, this life is great. What he does is great. But I said, you know what, once I get in, like, let me just kind of stick to what really the inspiration that got me through here, which was OB. So yeah, she'll tell you, I was like the first year representative for the OB-GYN club. Mm-hmm. And then I thought I was going to go into OB like first 2 years up until I did my family medicine rotation. And I started doing all of these well women checks. And I was like, hell.
He would come in. He'd be like, man, I got to come in. I got to go in there every day and I got to tuck my tie in.
I was like, I ain't doing this. I didn't even do OB yet. I didn't even do OB yet. Yeah. I just started doing the well woman checks and I was like, no.
As a woman, as a patient and as a woman, I think about this all the time. Like, I actually have better luck with male doctors than I do with female doctors.
Really?
But yes. And my first gynecologist ever was a male. And I always thought, I'm like, how do you guys come in and do this every day? And then still go, like, you have a wife at home and then you still go home and you still look at her the same, because you never know what you're getting that day. You don't know what the situation is. You don't know what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying? But then you got to still go home and, he had like 7 kids and I'm just like,
Yeah, the appetite was still there.
Oh my God. No, I did struggle. I did struggle with my specialty because since I was 10 years old, I knew I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Here we go. You see?
That's what I wanted to be.
She was at the first of the class. I do want to be a pediatrician.
Isn't that what you were with OB? Like,
no, I said I think I mean, but no, you were like,
that was
from when I was 10 years old. You forgot.
So when did the Cosby Show come out? How old were you? You were younger than 10. Thanks. Anywho. So I wanted to be a pediatrician. I got to my pediatric rotation, and he'll tell you, because we did our pediatric rotation together, I absolutely hated it. And not only did I hate it, I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at it.
I was better at it than you.
You probably were. I found the medicine boring. I found it so utterly boring, so that when we would sit for rounds and, then they would pimp the students and ask, what, I don't know, you had a fever for 5 days. Like, what is that? I don't know. Give them some tussin.
Yeah, boy, let that tussin get in there, boy. If you run out of tussin, put some water in the jar, shake it up, more tussin. More tussin.
Like, I don't know. What's wrong with this kid? Call his mother. Like, I don't know. But
his mother brought him in so you can help.
Call her back. Because I don't know what's wrong with him.
She's like that with our kids, everyone.
Call his mother. Oh, damn. But I struggled a lot because after that rotation was in the summer, or excuse me, it was in the winter. It was actually in the dead of winter. I think it was like February or March. And it was my 3rd year. At the end of your 3rd year is really when you should be, starting to look at what residency programs you're going to apply to. Well, my OB rotation was literally in June? Yeah, it was in June, which is essentially the last rotation of your 3rd year. So I went through all of the specialties and I was like, man, the specialty I thought I was going to love, I absolutely hate. I don't want to do this. And now I don't even know what kind of doctor I want to be. And I was hell bent that I did not want to do OB. So going into my OB rotation, I remember I used to tell him, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I'm not going to like OB. It's the last thing. I just don't know what I'm going to do. And eventually got into my OB rotation. After a week of that, I was like, oh, wow. What I didn't realize about myself at that time was that I really like to work with my hands. And that's what pediatrics was missing for me. It didn't allow me an opportunity to work with my hands. It didn't allow me versatility, in the day, so you were in the hospital pretty much all day. Or if you were in clinic, you were in clinic all day. And then that was just it. But there was no surgery. There were hardly any procedures. There was nothing. And I didn't realize about myself at that time that that's what I really loved. And that's what OB gave me. And that's when I started realizing, that I wanted to be an OB. But as far as integrity, man, let me tell you something. If you are a person with integrity, you are going to have to hold on really tight to it, because there are people in medicine, colleagues, attendings alike, who will make you question whether or not this is a profession where everyone has integrity, because not everyone does. Because I have seen things, even in residency, that I'm like, wow, like that right there is egregious.
Okay, tell us. I'm joking.
No.
Don't tell us. Just keep it moving.
No, but there are things that, or things that people say to you, things that people say about patients, things that people are like, I'll just move on. Don't worry about that, about the patient, like if a patient, for example, it's like you're seeing a patient and, that the patient needs something, but for whatever reason, maybe the patient doesn't have any resources to get that thing. And so you come out of the room and you're talking with your attending to let them know what you discussed with the patient, what your exam was. And now you start talking about the social issue that is going to prevent that patient from getting the care that they need. And the attending is like, you're not their social worker. What are you worried about that for? Excuse me? Like,
I think
aren't I responsible for making sure that they get what they need? Like, so help me out here, because we need to call the social worker to be able to do that. But you won't even empower me to do that. So I don't understand.
As with anything, like there's what we idealize to be how we expect to practice medicine, and then what's the real world. And that's in anything that you do in life. And I think from my perspective, I've seen a lot of what Dr. Renee said. And I've also seen some really great feel-good moments also. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for me is there was times even as a medical student when I was on my rotations where I would be in the operating room and I just didn't feel comfortable in the operating room, not because I felt like I couldn't do the operations eventually, but because I just didn't know my place. Like I didn't know how to scrub. Maybe there may be an overzealous surgical tech or nurse who's just kind of really going out of their way to make sure that you either know how to scrub or know that you don't, cause anything to be contaminated, or, they're just in their feelings and they just want to, kind of shine on someone. Like I've gone through all three of those type of experiences where I felt really uncomfortable for those three separate things. Or there's an asshole surgeon who just wants to take advantage of medical students and just pimp the hell out of them, or, just make them feel just extremely uncomfortable while they're there. I've experienced all of that stuff where I've questioned, like, man, like, can I make it in the operating room? But I pushed on, and I could always see myself actually doing the operations, that I was like, oh yeah, like this is just a rite of passage at this point, right? I just know that at this point, like what I'm learning from this asshole surgeon, I won't ever do when I become, a surgeon on my end. And then even in residency, like there's a point where you're like, man, like, can I actually do this on my own? But what you realize, most, if not all residencies, they teach you all the skills that you need in order to become an extremely good surgeon. It really is up to you. And I think we talked about this a couple of episodes ago about, how everybody in essence is 99% the same. There's just this 1% or even less than 1% that's not a big difference. That's what I expressed. But actually, Renee made a really big point in saying actually that 0.1% is actually a really big difference. That's the stuff that matters. That's the stuff that makes the difference between you as a surgeon individually or as a doctor individually, getting a patient to open up to you and tell you things that they couldn't tell any other professional, versus just being closed off and, you're not being able to get what you need to get to offer really good care.
Jamar had asked if at any point, I think you kind of just briefly touch up on it. Did you ever feel out of place?
Oh, yeah, I definitely felt out of place. I felt out of place as a pre-med. I felt out of place as a med student. I felt less out of place as a resident, but it was more of, man, can I do this? I was at a HBCU surgery program. So there are people who look like me. There's Hispanic folk there. There's African Americans. There's Africans. There's Caribbean. There's Native Americans all in the program. So it's just kind of more of like okay, like we can do this. But then it's like, well, can I actually learn enough to do this on my own? That's what I went through. Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah. I think everybody eventually feels out of place, especially when you're in the operating room for the first time, right? Because you don't know the etiquette, right? It's like anything else. So that's what I want to tell Jamar, right? Like this process is like anything else. The point of you wanting to be a doctor is not so that it's so intuitive that that you wouldn't even have to go to medical school to learn anything. That's the point of medical school, right? Is that you enter in a realm that you are completely unfamiliar with, and eventually you learn the ways of the wild, right? Like you just learn it. So you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to feel out of place. You're going to be standing in places that you shouldn't be. Someone's going to move you, right? You're going to touch something that you should not touch, especially in the operating room. And somebody might get pissed at you and be like, oh, hell, I just scrubbed the whole thing. Like now we got to start all over. Those things, you know, those things are going to happen. You're going to get woozy in the OR, some of you, right? Like well, it wasn't my first surgery, but my first day of my surgery rotation, I remember I ate a huge breakfast. It wasn't the first time I had been in surgery before because I had done that as a pre-med. But that day I had eaten a big breakfast and I think everything just went to my stomach because as soon as like we started and it was great, about 10 minutes in, I was like, ooh, something ain't right. And I had to back away, you know, I had to back away. I was scrubbed in. I had to back away and just kind of, you know, catch myself before I passed out in the OR. And then after that, I was fine. Right. But you have people who do like full on pass out in the OR because they just don't like the sight of blood. And yes, even if you don't like the sight of blood, you can still be a doctor. So, you know, just, yeah.
Is there another question he asked?
Well, yes, but to kind of close it off, right? As far as overstepping goes, how do you suggest or what advice would you give on how to overcome it?
Oh, just acknowledge that you're going to overstep and that's it. You'll have to go through the process of practicing and like, overstepping a bunch of times and realizing where your place is and go through it. You just realize like you can't get yourself out of that pain, right? Like you have to just kind of see it, experience it so that when you get, you know, to the other side, you're like, I had to go through there to get to here. That's just part of it. Right. And you have to have reps. You have to have reps in the OR. You have to have reps in the ER. You have to have reps in family medicine. You have to have reps in peds. Like you develop all these different things that you understand where you stand at that point of your training and then go from there. That's the way I look at it. Like there's no easy way to go about it. And I think that if you tell people to like, you know, I see a lot of people say, well, you know, don't speak until you're spoken to or, you know, just basically kind of crouch down and stuff. Like I hate that type of advice.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's just teaching you to kind of take or it's setting you up to be taken advantage of. That's how I feel.
They want you to be small.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's just like, look, just like you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from it. And just know that the majority of mistakes that you make are just mistakes. Like they're not because you set out to like hurt someone. So if someone is yelling at you or if someone is like over responding, that's usually that person's issue. Just remember that.
Exactly.
That's that person's issue. It's
Yeah,
not your
we
issue.
see that a lot in medicine. I've talked about this before. I had an attending who literally, I just come onto the floor and he would just start yelling, you know, or he would just walk into the room and we'd be at the tail end of a conversation and sign out. He didn't hear the beginning of the thing, but then he would blame me for whatever was said at the tail end. And I'm like,
that's where you get it from.
Yeah,
Okay, I get it.
Anyway.
That's where you get it from.
He would come in and blame me and start like reaming me out,
from residency.
You know? Yeah, from residency. But you know, so Nee's absolutely right? There are people in medicine who just have a complex. They have a superiority complex where they just feel like, well, I gotta always be the biggest person in the room. And in order to do that, I gotta pound on, you know, pretty much everybody in there. But you'll notice that these same people, there are people that they will never pound on. They will never step to, you know? So just understand that if you are in the presence of someone like that, you're probably in the presence of someone who isn't a very good person, but that has no reflection on you at all.
It can have a reflection if they allow it to continue, right? So at some point, Jamar will be in that person's shoes. He will be leading the surgeries or leading, residents or attendings or whatever. Just remember that that's not the kind of leader you want to be.
Boom.
Right? You use it as an example, like of what not to be. So at the end of the day, just keep that in mind.
Yep.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
All right, Kiara, is there anything else on this topic? This episode has gotten long in the teeth, man. Sheesh.
No. That pretty much wraps this one up.
All right.
Thank
all right,
you,
y'all. We're going to catch you guys on another episode.
We got to tell people that if they want to write in just like Jamar, that you go below in the show notes and you text us, right? It says send us a text, or there's an actual number down below in the show notes where you can text us as well. You can DM us at Docs Outside the Box, or you can write us a nice little message on our website, docsoutsidethebox.com/contact. How'd I do?
Did all right.
Good.
All right,
but let's
y'all.
also add a ClickUp form
and a ClickUp form, which will also be in the show notes. So you don't have any excuse not to contact us.
The analytics say y'all don't watch to the end. So we love y'all. Peace. All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1. All right. What's good, everyone? It's just me and Kiara.
Surprise, motherfucker.